Yeah, thanks so much, Bill. And thanks everyone else to join us today. My name is Matteo. I'm the CEO of SoundMachine. And I have here with me also on the line Anton. Anton is the CTO. Anton, if you want to just say hi.
Hello, everybody.
Yep. So thanks a lot to Bill again for this opportunity to introduce you to our partner program, which has been put together in collaboration with Sonos and is exclusively available to the Sonos community of dealers. So what I'm going to walk you through today is, see if I can make this going, start, let's do this. Yeah, so a brief overview about SoundMachine and who we are. We're going to then jump into the, and with the overview, we're going to touch upon the features of our solution, some comparison with other existing solutions that you might have heard of and that are also available on Sonos. And then we'll jump into the partner program. Now, throughout the presentation, it will be really great if you guys, ask questions. I don't know, Bill, how they can do that. If there is a chat available to do so, but or maybe you can you get the questions and you read them out loud. But they should be feel free to ask questions if there are questions as we go along.
No problem. I'll monitor the chat window, and if anybody has anything, please just type it in there, and I'll be happy to monitoring it. And Anton will be as well.
All right, great. Thanks so much. Okay, so if we jump into SoundMachine, so we are a commercial music service company. We are specialized in providing sound solutions in the sense of music content and the technology to distribute this content to commercial environments. Doing this for a while. We've been around for more than 10 years. We have around about 11,000 locations, and we are present in more than 50 countries. The company is based out of Spain and is based out of LA, where we have been operating since about a year and a half. And we have been available on Sonos since September of last year. Now, the program I'm going to walk you through today has been available to Sonos dealers since the beginning of June. Right. So, in terms of the content that we offer, our solution is a solution which is, as I was saying, of course, available through Sonos. It's available through the Sonos app. And the plan that is available on Sonos is what we call the SM Business Class plan. This plan consists of 32 curated playlists. These playlists cover a very broad range of genres, and they are specifically made for use in a commercial environment. This means primarily two things. First, that they are free of offensive lyrics, so there is no risk for the customer to have things playing that shouldn't be playing. And the second element to it is that these are curated playlists by human beings, and therefore the level of they're very homogeneous, they're very consistent in terms of the type of content. And last but not least, they are the content is compressed and made as such that variations in volume are minimized as much as possible. In terms of the features that are available, basically the first one is mixing. So these 32 playlists that I was mentioning before, they can be mixed, which means that they can be put together by choosing a percentage coming from one playlist, which could be 30% out of jazz, for example, and 17% out of, just for the sake of argument, out of rock. So the end user can put together a mix that consists of percentages coming from these different playlists. Another feature that is available through our solution is day parting. Day parting consists of programming specific content to play at specific times throughout the day. This feature is also applicable on a day of the week basis, which means that the end user can also program different content to play differently and play differently also by day of the week. A very other nice feature which we offer is the possibility to manage multiple locations. This means that once a user is set up, it has the possibility to add additional users that it can control from the main account. This is particularly useful in the case of, for example, of a small chain. That could be, for example, a restaurant chain where the owner has 2 restaurants and wants to make sure that only the content that he or she selects is going to be available to play at each of his or her locations. The last feature, which is exclusively available to us, is the feature of messaging. Messaging is basically the possibility for the end customer to program specific ads or just information to play at specific times of the day, every X amount of tracks, or every X minutes. Our solution does not contain any commercial, any advertising, but the user can program his or her own advertising as the music is playing. Now, both the messaging feature and the mixed and day parting can be controlled centrally when the user is making use of the multiple location features. Right, licensing is a very important point. The reason for that is, there is maybe not so much clarity around on which kind of locations require specific licenses to play music in public. The short answer is basically all do. And this all includes locations such as, for example, even private clubs where there is restricted access to the premise, or, for example, properties. So if you think about a property management company that is offering music in the hall of the building, that qualifies as a public place and thus qualified as an environment that requires public performance to be paid, to be able to reproduce music in a legal way. Now, our service, and we do include that in the pricing, includes all the subscription fees that customers require, these being, the ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC public performance fees. So that means that once a customer signs up for our service, he will not have to worry any longer about having to deal with the collecting societies. Now, if you think about Sonos, and oftentimes Sonos is associated as a consumer solution, we understand that there are quite a few cases that, potentially because of a lack of knowledge or understanding about how licenses work, some of your end customers end up using commercial services like Spotify, Deezer, for example, and all these solutions are not legal, and they expose your customers to potentially pretty high fees in the $10,000 to $20,000 per fee. In terms of pricing, our solution costs $29.95 per month per user. Users are entitled to a 1-month free trial. There is no credit card required to access the free trial, and there are no contracts, meaning that the service can be renewed on a month-per-month basis without, having necessarily to sign up for a 12-month period of, which is something that we understand that there are quite a few services out there that, will require the end customer to do that. And as I was saying, within the $29.95 per month per user fee, we are including all the ASCAP, BMI, and CISA licenses. Now, if you compare our solution to some of the main solutions that are available out there on Sonos, for example, SiriusXM and Mood are a couple of them. You know, we are definitely very competitively priced, and even more so if you think about all the features that we offer for example, a similar price as SiriusXM. So, you know, this being, for example, the possibility to create custom mixes, the fact that, you know, the end user can manage multiple users, the mixing feature, day party, messaging, and, you know, something that we call music concierge, which is basically the fact that once a customer signs up for our service, after 2 days that the customer has signed up, it receives an email from us offering the possibility free of charge to put together a custom mix for the customer. The customer has only to follow a link, fill in just some basic information about the business, about the demographics of the business, and we put together free of charge a custom mix that we make available to the customer and available, of course, also to the customer through the Sonos app. Some other differences, and in this presentation will be available to all of you, but some other differences, for example, with services like Pandora, is the fact that, you know, our service is human curated, and the human curation component actually makes the issues like, you know, offensive lyrics or, you know, inappropriate content in general, or even repetition, much less likely to happen in the case of offensive lyric. You're absolutely free of it. This is because our playlists are, you know, refreshed on a monthly basis. They consist each playlist of between 400 to 500 tracks, and these playlists are updated on a constant basis. Now, before maybe we jump into the partner program, I was wondering if there were any specific questions regarding the features that we offer, so that we can move into the program itself. Okay, so the partner program has been put together actually by discussing the needs of the dealers of Sonos in the US. We picked some dealers and we had interviews with them, and we put together a program that, you know, with the intention to match as much as possible the expectation of you guys. So that's how we come up with a recurring incentive, which compares with some other services that offer in a one-off incentive. We offer a recurring incentive. The recurring incentive is of $8 per month per user and kicks in as soon as the user pays for the first month. So there is a 1-month free trial. After the 1-month free trial, we solicit the input of credit card details. Once the customer makes the payment, then 30 days from then, we will make payment out to you. Now, as a partner in our program, you have access to a dedicated portal. This portal allows you to do 2 things primarily. On one hand, create users and keep track of them, meaning that you will be able to monitor exactly whether the user you have created are on trial stage, they are paying, or for some reason they have left. And the other thing that you will be able to do through the portal, you will be able to monitor payments. In fact, you will be able to monitor accrued money and payments that have been made out to you. As part of this program, we will also be sending out to you some marketing information, which you know, you will be more than free to distribute to your end customers and make use of it as much as you want. Now, in terms of the pricing, just for you to know, if for any reason you have situation where you're facing a customer which has more than 20 locations, we are more than happy to discuss with you different pricing for this specific situation. Now, in terms of how it works, so we'll discuss with Bill regarding signing up or you guys automatically or not. But in principle, you can reach out to us at a dedicated email, which is smpartner@sound-machine.com. Once you send us an email, you will be entitled to access to the partner portal, so you will receive credentials to access the portal, but you also will receive credentials to access the free demo account, which we believe is very important for you to have to make sure that you are comfortable with this solution. In terms of payment, you will have to indicate your PayPal account because that's the way we will be processing payment out to you. Now, once you have access to the portal, you will be able to sign up customers. And all customers that you will be signing up through the portal will be credited to you. Now, you can do it in two ways. The first is once you get into the portal, you will see there is a button that says New User. You just click there. A pop-up comes up. You will need to enter information regarding the customer. Sorry. The information will include the name of the customer, the address, which we need for licensing purposes, and the email. Once you OK that, your customer will receive credentials to access the service, and you, as the dealer, will also receive a copy of that email, which is very handy once you will need to set up a new user. So based on the information on the experience gained so far, the way it works is that, with that credentials, once you go out to the job, you can set up the Sonos device as well as, at the same time, leave the customer with the solution with SoundMachine working, because you will have at that stage, the username and the password of your customer. So what you can do is you just open the Sonos app, you select Add Service, you select, of course, SoundMachine, and then the app asks you whether you have an account or not. At that point, you will have the credentials, so you should choose, yes, I have an account. You will need to input username and password of the customer, and basically your customer is ready to go. There's nothing else you need to do. And once you have signed up the customer, everything, the ball is in our hands. We will take care of everything from that point onwards. We'll make sure that, of course, the service works properly. We'll be able to answer and address any questions that you or the customer have. And we will be processing payments directly via credit card with the customer. And then, as I was saying, at the end of the first paying period, we will start paying out the incentives out to you, the $8 per user per month incentive. Now, this is just a screenshot of what the partner portal looks like. We've kept it as simple as possible. On the left-hand side, you can see it would be your company name, it would be your contact email, address, and we will need to have your PayPal account to be able to process payment. On the right-hand side, you will have some stats about the total users you have created, the number of users that are still in trial period, and the paying user. And then you would be able to see the total accrued amount of money up to that point. The second row, you can see how to create a new user. Basically, you have what I was describing to you before, the Create New User button. You just press here, and by pressing here, a pop-up comes up. You fill in the information, and automatically, once you OK that, an email goes out to the end customer and to you with the credentials. Another way you can also get credit for signing up customer is by sending out a link that you can find here where it says send an email. If you press here, a pop-up comes up and you will be able to see a link which is a personal link. It's your link. By sending that link to a customer, they will be able to sign up to our platform, but you will be automatically credited for that user. Here you can keep track of all the users that you have created up to that point. Name, company name, sign up date. If they have a sub-user, meaning that if they have created from the main account additional user, you will be able to see them here. And as I was saying before, you will also be credited for them. And you will be able to see the status in which the customer is. So in this case, if, for example, it is in trial period, if it was already beyond the trial period, you will see here paying. And at the bottom, you will see month by month the number of users that are paying. You will see the amount that is due to you, and you will see if the amount has been paid to you or has not been paid to you yet. And as I was saying, as we close the billing cycle every month, we will pay out of the accounting period. Now, the last part of the presentation is more questions and answer part. We have tried to address some of the most common questions that we have been asked. Things like, the comparison between what we offer as a commercial music service versus, what consumer music services offer. We describe a little bit the features that are fundamentally different from consumer services. We talk about the licenses that are required, and we provide again content information and advantages about being a SoundMachine partner through Sonos. So this is in a nutshell the presentation. I don't know if there are specific questions. I think it would be great now to make it a little bit more interactive and to address any doubts or any questions you might have given the information I have shared so far.
Hey, Matteo, this is Bill Zidek. There were a few questions that came through. So the first one is, would you mind sending us the PowerPoint presentation so I can distribute it after the fact to the dealers in attendance?
Absolutely. It will be sent out to you. Yeah.
Great. The second question is, does the system ever time out or stop streaming after a certain number of hours?
Yeah, this is a good question, and the answer is no. And that's one of the fundamental questions differences with the consumer services. We know that after, I believe, 4 hours, consumer services like Pandora, for example, time out. In our case, the system does not time out after 4 hours. In fact, it does not time out at all.
Okay. Is the dealer incentive for the life of the customer the reoccurring service?
Absolutely, yes. This was a specific request that we got from the dealers we spoke to, and the answer is yes, it would be for as long as the customer is on the service.
Okay, great. Let's see. Yeah. I guess Pandora consumer times out after 4 hours, and Sirius consumer times out after 8, just for everyone's reference.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Are there any other questions? If you guys like, if you would rather just unmute yourselves and ask the question, that's fine too. I won't unmute everybody at once because it usually gets pretty noisy. But if you'd like to this is the time to open it up, even if it's not, not directly, regards to SoundMachine, but commercial music in general, or if you have questions about licensing, they're certainly the experts at it. So this is a great opportunity to ask all those questions. How about options for custom messages? This is probably a good place that we can spend a few extra minutes on what the capabilities of SoundMachine are for custom messages.
Absolutely. So the way it works is that custom messages, the way it works is that customer would need to provide the MP3 file with the message, and by the way, we can also produce messages if the customer needs us to do that. Once the MP3 file is ready, the customer can upload through our web page the message. For licensing reasons, we need to approve the message, and the reason for that is that we have to make sure that the background music that is being used for that message has been properly licensed. We make sure basically that is not very well-known music, because the likelihood of that not being properly licensed is close to 100% due to the cost of licensing well-known music. And once we go through the checks, we approve the message, and the message is available on our on the web page, on the web platform. Once the message is available, the customer can program that message. He can program the message to play every X amount of tracks, so let's say every 10 tracks, then the message kicks in. It can program the message to play every X amount of minutes. It can also program the message to play at specific times of the day. So let's say, they plan to have, let's say, happy hour every day at 6 o'clock, and it can also program that to happen on a specific day of the week, and can differentiate, what kind of message goes on a Tuesday versus what kind of message goes on a Thursday. There is a cost for us to do the approval process, but it's minimal cost. It's $5 per message. Once the message has been approved, there is no additional fees, and the message can be used on and on, as many times as the customer wishes to do so.
What's the cost to create a message if they supply the, the scripting and everything, if they don't have the ability to personally publish it? Right.
Yeah. The cost can vary a bit depending on, if they want one voice, two voices, and so on. It's, I'm talking about the voiceover part. We can also provide background music that goes with the message, and we've got a very ample, big library of music that we can use for that purpose. And the cost usually is around about $200.
Okay, that's great. A question came through: is there a resource for us to educate dealers on the fear they should have about illegally playing music without the proper licensing? Some of the customers just don't seem to care because they don't understand the consequences.
Correct. Yes, and the answer is yes, and I was about to mention it before, so thanks a lot for this question, because we have put together a white paper which, very lightly, let's say, describes, because it's, licensing is not an easy topic. But basically, this white paper describes which kind of situations require licensing, and gives examples of restaurants, bars, commercial locations that have been found reproducing music in public without the proper licenses, and the kind of fees that they face. But just to give you a rough figure, I think it's about the number of cases that have been brought by BMI over the last 5 years, I think, has gone up by 10 times. And the reason for that is that, as you can imagine, with streaming kicking in and you know, the sales going down in terms of downloads, and the name of the game is becoming the public performance fees. So there is a strong, you know, huge pressure on the collecting societies from the publishers and the record labels to actually go out and check, make sure that commercial occasions are paying licenses. So there is a good reason behind that, and the kind of fees that customers might end up paying. Thinking about your customers, we're talking about anything between $10,000 to $30,000, $40,000 for you know, if found guilty. And usually the way it works is that they walk in, they tape what is being played, and they place a fee on each single track they have been listening to. And usually it's about between 3 to 4 tracks, and it's about $10,000 per track.
Okay, and well, that's great. And that white paper was included in on my original and follow-up email in regards to the training. So it's you know, it's a simple white single sheet that you can use to help explain the complications of licensing and illegally playing music. It also, I believe, if I read it, if I remember what I looked at, I think it had an example of what a penalty might be.
Yes, it has about 4 or 5 examples of very recent cases, so that, you know, your customers can really refer to that and see that it's actually happening. So
I've actually, oh, sorry, I was going to say, I've spoken with a lot of small business owners who said it was just sort of like a plainclothes person who seemed like they were a customer coming through, either dining at your restaurant or something, and maybe asking a couple of small questions, and then you get a big bill later. So it's not like something official when they come in. It may be, you know, something that you're not expecting.
There's a question on messages. Is there a limit of how often a client can upload a new message? So if this commercial changes weekly, or, you know, is there any kind of limitation that you have?
no, there is no limitation. The customer can upload as many messages as he wants, so there's no limitation.
Okay. Here's a good question. If a customer plans to simply use local FM stations for background music, is this legal?
Basically, it has to, I mean, the customer doesn't need our service to be complying with the law, because a restaurant can go directly to ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC separately and pay for the public performance. Now, that process, of course, takes time because you have to interact, and you know, it's admin heavy because the customer will have to interact with 3 different suppliers, quote unquote, or licensing organizations, and the cost is around about $800 to start with. So it's usually very you know, inefficient and more expensive. Now, if they use FM radio, they again, you know, some of these laws are very, you know, you need to go into the details, and you need to understand. We need to understand how large the location is, and so on and so forth. But in principle, you know, if it is a location with the characteristics of having to pay, it will have to pay regardless. It's using a CD, you know, just a record, or you know, just a radio.
So in the U.S., the law regarding that is that the FM station pays a public performance fee, and then each store would be charged a reproduction fee. So you are considered to be reproducing the music in a public space, according to the law. So it's not, the public performance fees are not covered by the FM radio.
Ooh, interesting. Okay, great. That was all the questions that have come through chat so far. Again, if there's anything else that you guys can think of, now's a great time to ask that question. Again, you know, unmute yourself if you'd like just to, you know, ask it out loud, or if you're watching this in your vehicle or can't type easily, just unmute yourself and ask the question. But are there any other are there any other things that are common issues that you kind of see out there, or anything else that you can think of that might benefit the dealers kind of understand this commercial space?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the educational part is which we have already discussed, and the need to pay for licenses, I think, is something extremely relevant in this moment. And I think every opportunity should be taken to make sure that the customer is aware that the risk is pretty high, and it is very costly to incur into to go into litigation with this kind of collecting societies. I think the educational part to explain exactly, and, the white paper contains some information that can be shared with the end customer. I think is very relevant and should be probably the starting point of the discussion. Now, on top of that, of course, they will get fantastic music and a lot of features that they don't get with and business-related features, that they don't get with consumer services. So, I think there is a pretty compelling reason really to sign up for SoundMachine.
I have a personal question. So, is there any liability on the dealer's part if they're installing systems that are playing non-commercial or non-licensed music services?
I mean, there's no liability on the dealer's part, but I think it's definitely a very it's more like a commercial customer service issue, right? I mean, I'm sure that it would not really go down too well, and we've had dealers telling us and sharing that this with us when they leave behind an install. They, of course, don't get into the issue of content, but then something happens. So I think yeah, there's no liability if we look at it strictly legally speaking. It's more giving proper customer service to the end customer.
Okay. Another question came through: is there a square foot minimum for ASCAP? If a business is only 1,300 square feet, does ASCAP apply?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the limit by heart, but yes, there is a limit below which licenses are not required. The limit is pretty low, and in terms of the definition that ASCAP and BMI use to define a commercial environment, they basically say that any situation in which music is being reproduced to a group of people which is beyond family and a very limited group of friends. So you can imagine that with that definition in mind, there's really pretty few cases where public performance is not expected to be paid.
Okay. We'll give it a few minutes here and see if any other questions come through. This session is being recorded. It will be posted up to our YouTube channel. And for the sake of some of the sensitive information in here, it will be a hidden link. So you'll need the link that I send you in the email to access it. But that being said, please subscribe to our YouTube channel because there's a ton of information like this up there. And although Tandem Marketing and AllNet doesn't have any direct affiliation with SoundMachine, when we find great information that we think could be a benefit for our dealers, we try and make that available. There was another question that came through here. Let's see. Hold on 1 second. Cost of hardware on the Sonos end versus a SoundMachine dedicated hardware.
Right. I mean, of course, I mean, if you're using Sonos, you don't need anything else because you're using Sonos, you're using the app, and from our end, you don't need anything else. Now, if you are, and we've got cases where, you know, for example, we had a case with a relatively small chain, but they had about 10 restaurants, of which 6 were on Sonos and 4 did not have Sonos, and they connected through our hardware. Our hardware is a streaming player. It costs $99.95 and can be purchased through the web. And basically, you know, it serves its purpose only when used with with an account with SoundMachine. It's a dedicated player.
Okay, great. We would obviously prefer you to sell it with Sonos.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, no other questions are coming through. So with that, I think unless anybody pops in here, we can we'll end the session. You have you know, the information to reach out to SoundMachine directly. Feel free to you know, reach out to us so we can redirect you. Again, I appreciate everybody joining us this morning, and I think it was full of a lot of great information. I just want to thank Matteo and Anton again, and we'll conclude the session now. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Bill. Thanks so much, and thanks to everyone for listening in.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.